in Team Innovation, which is a team full of many known players like
Oh
Number
yeah,
Guy,
it
who
was a really
qualified.
strong team.
Yeah, Number Guy, he qualified for the BlizzCon last year. Daoud, who is the leader, and also Nyria, who's currently now on Team Liquid. So after that, unfortunately, Innovation disbanded. He moved on to Team Aware, a fairly lesser known team. And
Hmm.
finally, right now, he's on Fade to Karma, which is a team of not too many known players, but players who typically do very well in tournaments. We have players like Hawkeye, for example, who finished number 2 in the CN versus EU finals sometime earlier this year. And Cipher himself, no slouch. He's been just tearing up tournaments all the time. And he's gonna have to he's kind of like the final boss for Kolento, even though many may call Kolento that final boss.
Yep. Well, he's the one who came from the lesser round, so Cipher definitely is been waiting for Kolento for a while, for 3 rounds now, 4 rounds, 3 rounds. So yep, excited to see it. It definitely Cipher looks like one of the stronger player, but not necessarily now.
Yeah, it's the question is he strong enough to beat Kolento? And I think
That
uh,
is a good question. Kolento's been the 3-1 Zealot, 3-0. Like I don't know. Kolento just looks more and more convincing as we look at it.
yeah. So if the trend continues in the first series, he won 3-1, then he won
Hmm.
3-0. So if this trend continues, I think Kolento he's gonna win 2-0, I guess, and then Cypher will just give up.
Or either sets a clock and go 3-0 the other way around, whichever it doesn't happen.
Yeah, it's certainly possible. But Kolento, he's brought some pretty strong decks. I think
Hmm.
he possibly made the mistake in the BlizzCon qualifiers of bringing decks that were too like over the top. Like he got too
Oh yeah.
creative with mid-range Paladin with Malagos Warlock. Those are two decks that are typically not too played that much, at least in
Hmm.
the Western scene. In the Asian scene, for example, mid-range Paladin is certainly a lot more common. But this time he's bringing Secret Paladin, he's bringing Druid, and he's bringing Patron. So those are three decks that are very tried and tested.
Very consistent decks more so
Yeah,
overall.
very true. Yeah. So I'm really curious as to what Cypher brought to counter this
Yep, I don't think we have seen a
beast.
matchup. What do we know his decks yet?
Oh, we don't. We actually
Okay.
haven't seen him play yet throughout this entire last chance qualifier. But unfortunately, he so basically Cypher was the player who finished third in the
Hmm.
round of 8 group, which means he was one match away from qualifying directly into the land finals. But fortunately for him, he gets another chance, but it's going to be
Yeah,
against Kolento.
the final boss
Yeah. Yeah,
himself. Yes.
Masan, can you tell me
Yeah.
well, you're on Colento's team. Can you tell me about like the team dynamic there? How much do you guys talk? How much do you guys practice? What's it like being on Cloud9, Masan?
Used to not talk too much about the decks or mana until the Archon Team League. Then Archon Team League, I think, brought us all of us kind of together, and we have consistently talking the Cloud9 Hearthstone chat going out. So we were sharing decks. We were talking about meta, perhaps not necessarily practicing with each other as much as we could, but we can get there.
Yeah, we just got word from production that Cypher's decks are indeed going to be Druid, Warlock, and Warrior. Pretty much the three most common classes.
Oh man, Druid, Warlock, Warrior. Well, it's likely. Well, there are not really, like you say, it's always mid ramp Druid,
Mhm.
as I haven't seen any of the ramp Druid being used yet. So that's what I can predict. And Warrior likely, again, Patreon is more popular one than Control Warrior. What do you think about the Warlocks though? I've actually seen few people using Zoo at high level ranking,
Mhm.
but most of them obviously is at least on tournament wise, it's been Hemlock.
Yeah, in tournaments, Handlock is many players perceive Handlock as a deck that requires more skill and therefore is
Hmm.
more consistent. And it also just counters patrons, which is just a very
Oh
popular
yeah.
pick. On the Asian servers, though, I think Zoo is possibly even more common, and
Hmm.
especially in the Chinese scene, Zoo is still considered one of the best decks.
I believe he also is pretty popular in non-Chinese Asian server as well.
Yeah, yeah. Um, of course, and not only that, but in the Australian scene, there was a
Hmm.
player by the name of Ellerick, and he used Hobgoblin Warlock to qualify for the Hearthstone World Championship Series.
Wow, that is impressive.
So I mean, this is certainly probably not going to be a Hobgoblin deck from what we can see
No,
from the
no, it
opening
is
hands.
handlock. Now we see the hand.
Yeah, we saw Kolento defeat Zelay's a dragon handlock with and Zelay pretty much got the god draw. So
Oh yeah.
even though this is a favored matchup for Cipher, and even though he could possibly get just an amazing hand, Kolento definitely has the opportunity to take it all.
So God hand the handlock wasn't enough to compete with the better hand or a more suitable hand of Patron, which, considering the Patron gets countered by handlock often, it's an interesting factor, really.
Yep. We're gonna see Lotheb as one of the cards in this deck. And that tells me that it's probably gonna be more of a standard handlock rather than
Oh yeah, definitely.
yeah.
Lothab also definitely one of the cards that prevents warriors from drawing,
Oh
as
man,
well as comboing you down.
Sylvanas as well. That's really interesting. Typically it's either like one or the other, but this seems to be like a very mid-range
school.
heavy deck. Yeah.
Old school Sylvanas and possibly also Dr. Boom. But the one thing it's not going so well for Cipher is that he does not have a 4-drop yet. As the 4-drop is Mountain John, he doesn't have a Twilight Drake, so he decided to go for a Dark Bomb and Mortal Coil.
Yeah. This means that unfortunately Cypher won't be able to play any Mountain Giants that he draws.
No.
But that's all right.
The Twilight Drake.
Yeah, if he had just tapped, he would have gotten like in a similar situation.
So I guess he's just hoping that he draws into Twilight Drake. Ooh, another Dark Bomb.
That's actually pretty good.
Yeah, not bad. You wanna prevent Patron Warrior from drawing as much as possible.
Yeah, exactly. If you don't have a 4-drop, then that's pretty much your best alternative, short of an Iron Beak Owl here.
Oh yeah. Would you rather use Iron Beak Owl if you drawn into it, or Dark Bomb? What do you think about that?
I think I would prefer the Iron Beak Owl. That does give the Acolyte a bit more. It gives the Acolyte the potential to draw off of Battle Rage, but at least you deny that initial draw. And not only that, there's not too many big Iron Beak Owl targets for you to silence in the deck, but Dark Bomb is a more consistent card that you can have later on to kill off like a spare patron, for example.
Oh yeah, true. Oh man, just those draws, man. Are you really going to go for Lothab on turn 5 against Patron Warrior? Because you want to save that card up usually for either preventing Warrior from drawing or bursting you down.
Yeah,
which is not going to be the case here.
You typically that's the ideal situation, but Cipher definitely is far from an ideal hand. So I think you have to play what you're given and just play on curve. Putting on some pressure on Kolento is probably the right move.
And Kolento doesn't have any minions to throw down to draw either. Usually whenever your opponent plays Lothab, you should have some sort of, well, often you have some sort of draw minions like a Cloud of Pain, or some people even play Low Order, which is not the case, or the Novish Inventor, which none of this is it. So he just have to go for armor up and pass a turn. So it's actually turned out great turn.
Yeah,
the pretty good turn, not necessarily great.
Oh, an
and
Emperor. That's pretty amazing. Although Kolento will be able to clear it off, it's actually not too bad for Cipher, since Kolento will be forced to use the Death Spite charge, which means there's not really a potential to activate a Whirlwind effect on the following turns with either Grim Patron or...
I think I will consider going for Ancient Watcher and Argus here, because that prevents, unless using Whirlwind, your board from being cleared entirely.
Okay, that's pretty good.
And also deals the damage to face, which is kind of important. You want to put pressure on Patron and Warrior so that they don't have necessarily just, I can just get away with a bunch of things. Let me just wait for another couple of turns before you draw into, before I can burst you down.
Yeah, so a really awkward clear here for Kolento. So if he just runs into this Lotheb, how much, it means the Lotheb will have done 17 damage to Kolento's face.
Oh man, you will just have to run into the Ancient Watcher and use a Whirlwind, in my opinion. I don't see too much way around it. If he had another minion that it can battle rage off, that'll be fine. But he already used the Frothing Berserker. That's his second Frothing Berserker, which you do want to save for later on. So yeah, just hitting, and I will even go for it. Since your armor doesn't really necessarily matter unless you run Shoal Slam or you have a Shoal Slam. I think I'll go for Shoal Block first into possibly just Go Hit and Warwind. I guess you can also just wait another turn because it's not like you're gonna attacking into that.
Yeah, that's right.
Could just wait another turn, see what he gets, and armor up pass instead of using Warwind. Since the next turn he could just go for Gnomish Inventor, possibly go for Whirlwind, then board clear. Well, mostly board clear, and then go for Battle Rage for at least 2 draws, which is something we really, really desperately needs.
Yeah, and he feels a little better now that he's gained some armor, so it's not like he's going to be in danger of lethal anytime soon.
Yeah.
A key part about Kolento's hand, though, is that he has at least 3 parts of the combo. He has the War Song, Frothing, and Whirlwind that you need in the matchup. An Emperor would be great for Kolento at this point. Another card that would be great would be possibly a Grim Patron.
So I see 16 damage right now, which is not close enough. The worst part here is like you don't have anything to kill Emperor Darison. So I guess you will have to see what you draw with either Gnomish Inventor or Slam. What do you think you will go for it?
It's a really hard position for Kolento. It's just so much pressure on the board. Not only that, but there's already an Emperor activation.
Oh, yeah. Oh, boy. I guess he's going for Gnomish Inventor after. No, which makes sense since he wants to roll in.
He doesn't really want to do 2 damage to the Gnomish.
This also means that the Emperor Darison will not die this turn, guaranteed. And things just looking better and better for Cipher. Yeah. He can Mortal Coil and draw a card and get rid of that 2/1 that you don't want against the Patron Warriors.
Yeah. Well,
bring him down to 10 health.
The nice thing here is that you don't necessarily, it's not necessarily that bad that Emperor goes off that many times for the Handlock. It's not like Handlock has like a game-winning combo this late into the game. Like they don't have that much burst damage. It's more that they'll be able to build up stronger boards, which kills you more slowly, which is what Kolento needs. He needs some time.
He's thinking about the total damage he has, which isn't enough yet. But here he can go for Sylvanas into... I will just play everything here. I guess you don't necessarily need to go for Sumptuary Protector yet, since less really unlikely the Kolento has lethal without the weapon. But why not go for it? You already have one.
Yeah.
Left in your hand. That will cost us 0 mana next turn.
I was gonna say Kolento, he really needed a Whirlwind effect in order to do the combo. But even with the Whirlwind effect, first he has to worry about surviving.
Yeah.
And he's gonna have to use his resources extremely inefficiently if he wants to survive.
Oh boy. I mean, I guess you could just go for slam on... You could gamble and slam on Emperor Darison, and then hopefully you draw into execute, and then you can go for Whirlwind execute on Sylvanas and not take too much damage. I actually don't see what he drew. Oh, he drew into Emperor Darison.
Yeah, unfortunately, that's just going to be game over.
Yep.
He's going to take... He has to take a gamble here. Hope that there's like absolutely nothing in Cipher's hand. To be fair, both Dark Bombs were used, so it's kind of likely that Cipher hasn't drawn into a Hellfire, but there it is.
Yep, there it is.
Yeah, the funny thing there is if Cipher didn't have the Hellfire, it would have looked pretty bad for him since there's just so many pieces of the combo that are discounted in Kolento's hands.
Darison will be traded with the Sylvanas, and you only have a 2/3 left over, which isn't that amazing.
It's a pretty interesting game. In this game, Kolento didn't draw any executes, but Cipher had a pretty bad opening hand. Compared to the previous game we saw of Patron versus Handlock, where Zalay had just an amazing hand with Handlock, but Kolento had the executes. It just seems like those key turns where Kolento got some tempo from playing executes into the 4 mana or the 3 mana giants was really what he needed.
Ooh, Druid versus Druid. Druidimir. And I see one with the Innervate and one with the Wild Growth. Which one do you think is favored?
That's kind of like the age-old question. Usually it's the wild growth player that's favored, but sometimes you have those turns where you innervate out either a Shade or a Piloted Treader. And if you get the Piloted Treader out, sometimes the druid doesn't have an answer. The other druid doesn't have an answer, even though he has wild growth. And he just like hits you a bunch of times with the Shredder and you
Oh,
just
yeah.
die immediately.
It hurts.
So even though Cipher has the advantage with the wild growth, his other cards in his hand are definitely something that he doesn't want to see.
Yeah, the Force of Nature Savagery is definitely not something you want to see on turn 1, not to mention you don't have anything to play on turn 4 except for the big game hunter, which you probably want to save for the big game, for Dr. Boom. And really no minions on hand that he wants to play right now. I guess it's at least the Kolento doesn't really have anything either. Oh my god.
Another whiff.
Another.
So Cipher here, he had to decide whether it's time for some big game hunting. And unfortunately for him, Kolento does have the Keeper of the Grove.
Uh-huh. I actually would not have played it personally, but it totally, like, you don't have any minions. That means you can't put any pressure on Kolento. Hero powered. And he has a coin, so. Wow.
Yeah. Well, at least the nice thing for Cipher is that
because another spell.
Yeah, another spell that he can't use. I guess you have to Wrath for one.
Yeah,
just
Wrath
for the card
draw,
draw.
I think you have to draw here instead of going for kill.
At least the nice thing for Cipher is that I guess Kolento now can't curve out perfectly.
No.
Since he can't, he would be forced to inefficiently innervate if he wants to play the Azure Drake on the next turn.
Ooh, swipe being used on 2/4 minion. How efficient. I guess this isn't too great for Kolento either. Like you said, Kolento doesn't really have anything he wants to play right now. But then Kolento also knows that Cipher doesn't have anything that he wants to play on turn 5. Like, you much rather play any of the 5 drops or 7 drop if you have Interfade or anything.
Yeah. I definitely think Swipe is, or rather Azure Drake is the play, because you want to have a higher chance into drawing something that you can play on turn 5 anyway.
Now Cipher actually is willing to just use the Wrath to deal 3 damage and deal with the 4/4, so you can safely go for Ancient Lore next turn. But then Kolento also drew into another Azure Drake.
Yeah. We're definitely going to see Azure Drake into almost certainly Swipe on the following turn and deal with the Ancient of Lore. So
wow, now both of them have a Force Nature Savagery and Savagery combos. They just need to innervate and wait until turn 10.
Oh. Well, look at that.
Actually, Cipher has a full combo now. He just needs to draw into minions. Unless Kolento draws into 2-drop.
He has the full double combo.
I guess he will play that. Because he rather just want to draw into Emperor and use a full combo. And take the board. Taking board is way more important than combo in this matchup.
Yeah. I was going to say, if he hadn't drawn into those exact cards, then it might be possible that Cipher would never get damage onto Kolento's face, because he just can't make a minion stick. Now, at least Kolento will be forced to hero power this down. But it all...
Yep. Well, he didn't have any 2-drops otherwise, so he will be forced to use a hero power anyways. The difference is that he just dealt with the double innervated out minion.
Yeah.
So Kolento knows that Cipher doesn't have any ramp ability from now on.
Look at that.
Man.
This is the problem with just running Darnassus Aspirant, with running too many ramp cards in your deck. If you don't draw into them, then if you don't draw into them early on and you top deck them in the late game, it just means that you're essentially drawing dead.
Yeah, 2/3 is not the best card you want to see on turn 8. Well, turn 7 for him. And Kolento on the other end is stuck with a bunch of 7 drops.
Take your choice. I mean, he definitely wants
Yep.
Dr. Boom now,
Yep.
but this is fine. Kolento, he hasn't seen Cipher play his deck yet, so he doesn't want to get Black Knighted. That could be like literally one of the only
Or
ways that,
silenced and
yeah,
wrathed.
exactly. That could be one of the only ways that Cipher could come back in this game.
Just keep on drawing and wait until turn 10 and draw into Innervate, Force Nature, Saboteur, Savage, I think would be the answer here for Kolento. But on Cypher's, what's the Cypher's answer right now? Swipe Hero Power, go face forward 2 damage, that's it. And he is out on Innervate. Wow. You're using Swipe to remove the opponent's board, yet at the same time you're taking damage on your face?
Yeah.
Oh boy, this isn't looking too good for Cipher.
So a very viable play here is you just charge the face
Oh
with
yeah.
your Druid of the Claw. Just wait for the combo next turn.
Mm-hmm. Even if your opponent, even if a Cipher even if it's sort of low, Cipher draws into lure, he's forced to heal instead of drawing. Here comes the charge. And another Dornos Austrian. Oh, or the taunt actually.
Yeah, fair enough. This works as well simply because
Ooh, a turn or 2 or 3 or 4 a little too late. Dr. Boom, you know your opponent. Well, actually, the Kolento did not give any sign
yeah.
that he had a combo. Otherwise, he would have charged.
Exactly.
Right?
Yeah. Now it's even more inconvenient because you have to. It's this Druid of the Claw is really inconvenient, and also because you have the Darnassus Aspirant anyway, it's more likely that even if he clears off the Druid of the Claw somehow, you won't be able to clear off the Aspirant.
Yeah. So, game number 2 going to Kolento's, evening of the match.
Yeah, we have a series in our hands. It's quite a wide contrast between this series and the past series, in which Kolento just swept in 3 of the fastest games we've ever seen.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah, the good old Druid versus Druid Mirror. And now it's down to the final decks, Secret Paladin and Patron Warrior versus...
Which one do you think is more favored between Secret Paladin and Druid?
I think the consensus is that the Paladin is favored in that matchup, at least. You do have a lot of good answers, like the Aspirant especially can't really get answered by Paladin early on. But, oh, wow, this is actually even a Control Warrior.
All right. So this is a little bit of a surprise. Kolento might be thinking, oh, I'm going against Patron Warrior by default. Because you can easily fool your opponent thinking, you can easily guide them so that they are thinking that you're playing Patron Warrior, but you're not. You just play weapons and knock a lot of pain, and bam, turn 6, bam, turn 7, bam, turn 8. You can ramp up from there. That's the strong point, I think, of the Control Warrior in this matchup.
I know when Patron Warrior first became a thing, one of the Team Liquid players, he actually lost 2 games because he couldn't figure out what type of warrior his opponent was bringing. So he had to make more risky plays. There was one game where he kind of went kind of all in on patrons on turn 5 because he got the opportunity to do so. And if he was facing off against another patron player, he would have won instantly. And if he
Then
was
Brawl.
facing, but then Brawl happened, exactly. And in a separate game, he thought his opponent was playing Control Warrior, so he had a board full of patrons. He didn't realize that Frothing Berserker combos could possibly be a thing, and he died because of that. So these days, though, it's not too much of a factor, but it's certainly always a possibility that you have to.
It's only a factor if you're playing Control Warrior, because by default, your assumption is your opponent is playing Patron.
Exactly, and I think that's going to be pretty useful. But I think just back in those days, Shield Block wasn't a card that was really typically used that much in Patron, so players could get more confused about that if they're not up to date with the metagame.
Wow, Harrison Jones, I think, actually is a key card going second as a Control Warrior because it prevents your opponent from going Deathbite into Patron, which is in one of your win conditions against Control Warrior, and if, draws into Brawl as well.
Yeah. So
Which has everything you can ask for.
If you didn't have the Harrison Jones, Brawl would be key to deal with patrons, but basically this is everything you could ever want.
Yeah. Now, even without assuming that your opponent has a patron, you can simply just count out Harrison Jones now.
Yeah. So one of the key cards that was introduced in Patron War, or rather in Control Warrior,
Hmm.
is Justicar Trueheart. We've all seen those clips on Reddit where Trump gets bursted down from 57 health by a Patron
Uh,
Warrior, even though he has like 57 points of armor effectively. And right now, if with Justicar Trueheart, with too many turns of that, that's just simply not possible from Patron Warrior.
no, it's difficult.
Yeah.
The also thing about the True Heart is that it will not last on board. It only has 3 health, so it's not gonna give your opponent a lot of damage with the Frothing Berserkers.
That's very true as well.
Oh boy. Would Cipher not? Is there any reason not to Kona Harrison Jones here? Or perhaps go for Fire War extra armor up and ignore the
That
just bait out the patron move
yeah,
here
that's a
before he can actually draw into Battle Rage,
yeah,
which was not the case, unfortunately.
exactly. A really heads up
Good
play
try though.
there, actually. He was
Good
setting
try.
up in order to deal with a full board of patrons.
Hmm.
This actually works out too, because now he can Harrison
Yeah.
Jones and clear off the no mission mentor.
You can only clean out. Yeah, yeah. You can clean out the no mission venture.
Yeah, I think basically in that last turn, I think 90% of players would have just played the Harrison Jones because they see, oh my God, Candy, it's
Yeah.
it's like a death
Oh
spite.
my god,
Obviously, I want
piece
a
of
Harrison
candy.
Jones
Oh
deck.
my god, piece of candy. But then you also have a Brawl. On top of that, you can play Fisher. Well, you can play Harrison Jones after Brawl as well. Well, that's something a lot of people just forget about. They just go for the candy right in front of your eyes.
So far, Cipher has not revealed any Control Warrior cards, right?
No. And that,
There was an Armor Smith, and that was pretty much it.
yep,
Armor Smith, Fire War Axe, Harrison Jones. Those are all cards that are used in a typical Patron Warrior.
he might do that again here. But it's turn 6. It's a really great turn to just go for.
Shield Maiden.
Yeah, Shield Maiden. And yep, here we go.
Kolento realizes it now.
Now
Ah,
Kolento knows he's facing Control Warrior, not the Patron. And Kolento does not have a slime in his hand, so he does not actually necessarily have means to deal with the 5/5 on board without burning extra card. Ooh,
so
just Dowrison. Dowrison makes a lot of sense here. It's just gonna be forcing trade.
yeah, and just
And Kolento has the 4 piece of combo. Well,
yeah.
yeah. Well, if you also take into account the inner rage, then he's 5 piece of combo.
Yeah.
It can also draw really triply on Battle Rage, so that was a great turn to go for Emperor Dowrison.
By attacking the face there, in addition to the Emperor Thorzane tick,
Hmm.
it means that Kolento is saying to Cypher, "Hey, I kind of am close to lethal,
Hmm.
even though it's kind of crazy now with the warrior at 35 health. So maybe
It's possible.
Cypher
Mhm.
will play possibly over defensively here.
Like how? Coining out the Armor Smith, perhaps? And then get extra armor?
Yeah,
I'm not sure
possibly.
about that. Because the Armor Smith also, after you seeing Emperor Dowrison, is a weak point, can be weak point against
Yeah.
those patrons.
Well, I was maybe he won't consider maybe hitting the Emperor Thorzane with his face and then executing. Although I don't think that's a move you would do
No, no,
typically anyway.
not when your opponent is going face with a weapon. I don't think that's something you want to do.
Face once
Oh
again.
boy. Yep. Kolento really wants it. Also have to take into account that if Kolento somehow uses his burst here, he will not be able to use, because these Emperor Mercenaries, they're already out. This is something you have to keep in mind going against Control Warrior, that you're not going to have a full burst for 40, 50 damage if you use an Emperor early on, which he did. So he doesn't have that great of draw cards, so
All right, so
if Kolento doesn't finish, or well, if Kolento doesn't deal decent damage, as decent either board advantage or just decent damage to face, Kolento might be just stuck
Yeah.
with the cards he can't use or a card he can't burst with.
Yeah, so we can probably start counting damage here. Assuming Cypher only has 1 minion on the board, that means there's 5 extra damage from the first whirlwind effect with the 4 minions that Kolento will play, and then 4 damage from the second whirlwind effect because the ghoul will die, +2 from the unstable ghoul running into something, +4 from the death spite, so that's 9, 16, and then +2 from, or rather +3 from cruel taskmaster, 19, and +2 from frothing berserker. So
You
that's gonna,
can also just wait until another turn and wait for a second, possibly Frothing Berserker.
yeah.
Kolento might decide today. He doesn't really have good anything here.
Yeah.
He doesn't want to. Obviously doesn't want to use a burst yet. He
Yeah.
just need another Frothing actually, and he's in lethal range. Oh,
Yeah.
double brow.
Interesting.
Oh, that's why he wanted to bait it out, because even if he baits the first one out early on.
Yeah. So as just a baseline here, I think Kolento has around like 23 damage, and that could potentially kind of double if there's a second frothing berserker drawn.
Oh yes. Will there be a second Frothing Berserker? Kolento only has about 4 turns from now on. Ooh, that is a great card right now. You don't necessarily need Taskmaster right now, so you can just go for... Yeah, you can just go for several card draw. Just cycle through so you can get the second Frothing Berserker, which is what you need. Which is what you want. It's the only card you want right now.
Yeah.
Besides maybe Warwind.
At the same time, though, I think legitimately overdrawing might be a concern here.
You only draw 2 cards, though. I mean, you're not going to use...
Oh, look
yeah,
at
and he
that.
draws into it.
So
Wow. So
this,
how much mana does it cost to play all things? 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8 cards, and he has Inner Rage. So he actually would like to draw into the second ghoul or a whirlwind, and that will be about 50 damage. Wow.
Right. Yeah, well, get your Reddit accounts ready because this is gonna be one of those games.
Yeah. I guess it depends on how many. The Cipher is very willing to play Baron Geddon here. It does kill 2 of them.
Mm-hmm. The problem with Baron Geddon is that it deals even more damage to your face.
Yes, very true.
But the alternative, though, is
Uh-huh.
I think hitting one of these minions. Although you could execute the Acolyte, which denies card draws, and clear off the Cruel Taskmaster with your shield baited. And I kind of like that play. I don't think you're going to be executing too many things in this matchup.
Yeah,
and denying the
You
card
wanna
draw
deny
is just
card
more
draw
important.
Can be very important. You're just stuck with too many cards, in my opinion, that you're not gonna use or not nor using. So let's see what Kolento draws. Kolento has Armor Smith. That is 2, 4. Only 2 Whirlwind effect though. 5 minions, 6 minions plus 2 Whirlwind effect maximum. Oh, actually, 48 damage. Wait, no, let me just recalculate.
So the issue here is it costs 8 mana to play both Frothings, the Warsaw, and the Unstable Ghoul, right? And with that amount of mana, you actually can't fit in any more minions. If you want to use like a whirlwind effect, another whirlwind effect rather. So that Armor Smith, more likely than not, isn't going to be part of the combo.
No, so we'll just possibly just throw it out, or maybe you just want to have it just in case you want to just armor a bunch of times in case you can't finish your opponent enough. Man, Cipher has to use some card. Is he just gonna use a coin and pass a turn? Like, you also want to pressure opponent. That's the thing against Patron. Patron is just seeing a free card draws, and the moment Kolento draws into third Whirlwind effect with the 2 Frothing Berserkers with about 5 minions on board on his side, so +6. So 6 times 2 times 2 is
yeah. I think
near 30 damage.
Right here.
Well, I guess.
I think you consider just maybe attacking the face with the Death Spite and equipping the Fiery War Axe.
Would you? Oh, you mean as a Cipher? Perhaps with the Armor Smith.
Well, the problem with Armor Smith is that it gives your opponent even more damage on the board, and it seems like this is one of the only ways you can lose right now.
It
The
counteracts though. If you don't think your opponent has two frothing berserkers, it
exactly.
actually just doesn't do that.
It doesn't, but at the same time, Kolento does have two Frothing
Yes,
Berserkers.
very true. That would be the deciding factor. Ooh, execute. And now we can just execute. He can't even go for execute right now, and he will have another 3 turns
Yeah.
to see whirlwinds and ghouls.
So again,
Both of them are at 10 cards, so he has to play something. Kolento. Ooh, wait, 2 cards.
I'm actually wondering why Cipher didn't play the Fire War Axe because it would have threatened more lethal.
Oh
But
yeah,
okay, so with just this Armor Smith edition, I think it just might be it.
cool. Armor Smith and Inner Rage. So that is actually 7 minions on board. 2 whirlwind effects. Minus, well, he's gonna execute, I guess, the Armor Smith. Is that enough? I'm not.
It's a
I'm
little
not seeing
strange.
I'm
Yeah,
not seeing it.
I don't think this is lethal actually
No.
because there's two minions. And the
Mhm.
other problem is the ghoul, it doesn't really, it can run into the Shield Maiden, but it doesn't get one more damage.
Yeah. Whoa, I hope the Kalentos was able to finish the turn.
Yeah, it's a pretty
Oh
easy
yeah,
sequence.
definitely. Yeah.
There's no patrons involved,
Yeah,
so
there are no
it's
patrons, so you
not
just attack
particularly
the-
difficult. Yeah, Kolento was forced to go off because Cipher was threatening a Grom lethal with
True,
full
but he could have
Taskmaster.
waited if he was gonna use execute a turn. That is, like, you could just execute it now we're up, and you're away from Ash. So it's not like he has a weapon up. So, well, now it's fairly easy. I think just go for a Brawl and Omar of Schultz and finish it off, or even go for just see what comes out after Brawl.
What about
You might be able to just go for
what about just
big
Baron
game
getting
hunter.
here?
Baron, get an Omar up.
Because both Frothings have been used up,
Mhm.
so it's not like you're afraid
Actually,
of like a Frothing Berserker OTK, right?
yeah.
And it feels like
That is very true.
the
And
brawls.
only thing your opponent has left over is patron combo.
Exactly.
Which is not particularly strong yet.
I mean, it's not really that important, but you might want to save the double brawls for the two patrons that might come up in the next few turns. This just also puts a little more pressure on the board and puts your opponent on a clock yet again. So I definitely like this here.
Also, you might not just get big game hunter target left over, which will be the worst possible scenario, interestingly. Since you don't want to be attacking into the 2-1 leftover Northern Commander now. But this puts a lot of pressure on Kolento now.
Yeah, how do you even deal with this Baron Geddon? You feel like execute probably is part of it, but how do you deal the initial damage?
You can Inner Rage, which which is difficult.
So
I think you just have to go for War. Oh wow, he goes for War Song.
okay.
And that is it, unfortunately, I believe. So 5, and then Battle Rage. Yeah, I don't think the Kolento has enough. No.
Wait, so what if he draws into... Okay, he can't really draw into anything now.
No. He can't play anything.
So basically,
Let's say
Kolento...
that is quite a bit of damage. 10 plus 12. Wait a minute. I hope he's able to attack with everything.
That's actually
One damage
one
off
damage
lethal.
off lethal. Pretty amazing here. So, okay. So if... Let's say one of the patrons that has 3 health survives. What happens then?
No, it doesn't actually matter, I don't think, anymore.
But how do you deal with like a patron that
Well,
has 3 health?
how do you armor up from here after Brawl is the biggest part because Kolento already has a weapon.
Yeah. Well,
I'm very surprised on this.
I think that's just it. Like
yeah.
from his perspective, if a 1 HP patron were to survive, then he still would be alive. Because he doesn't know that for certain that Kolento has a weapon in his hand.
Mhm.
But that was really well played from Kolento. I can't believe that.
Yeah, two
It's
combos to burst. Usually it takes a huge amount of one super combo to finish your opponent off. But in this case, Kolento just was able to draw into. Well, we thought about, oh my god, that's it for Kolento. He's out of charge. He's out of the Uber damage. But then he did Battle Rage and he drew a lot of damage cards after it, and he ended up having 22 damage.
Mhm.
Yeah, 22 damage burst from the Warsong Commander Patron Inner Rage combo.
Yeah, it was actually pretty amazing since I typically never see the patrons as kind of like a combo finisher, right?
Yeah.
Like, but with just that combo, without even a frothing berserker, Klenta was able to deal 22 damage from his hand. Pretty sick. It just shows you how much Kolento has played that deck. I've like basically in
Hmm.
Control Warrior versus Patron, I've literally never seen that happen, where you
Yeah.
use two sets of combos on one with the Patron Warrior, or one with the patrons rather. And
Often, I think the most of warriors, most of players would have just, since you have most of combo, you just need another ghoul and or berserker, and your opponent was actually forced to play minions after that point because he's at 10 cards. He's obviously not gonna, oh, let me just discard a card. And that was not the case. Like the without weapon in the opponent hand, without the weapon in Control Warrior's hand, he was just forced to just keep on drawing and perhaps to play an extra minion or two besides the Armor Smith. And if that were to happen, you could actually just burst your opponent down from 50, 40 health.
yeah,
But Kolento just decided to not wait for that moment. All right, the time's up. Let's do this,
yeah.
and he did it.
Well, now Cypher's in a really interesting position. He definitely wanted to take a win with the Control Warrior against Patron because this is not a matchup that you really want to see. Not only that, but Cypher revealed that he was a Control Warrior, and
Oh
because
yeah.
of that, I think Kolento he kept Divine Favor in his hand because of that knowledge. Whereas if he was facing off against the Patron Warrior,
Hmm.
Patron Warrior sometimes it just runs out of cards if it doesn't get enough battle rages. So Divine Favor is not as good.
No.
So the knowledge there is actually making a pretty big difference for Kolento. Just changing
Not
how
having
this,
turn 3 also hurts for
yeah,
Control Warrior. Gonna have to wait for turn 4 Death Fight.
not uncommon though to miss your turn three as the Control Warrior. That's why some players have even teched in Bash in Control Warrior. What's your opinion on
True.
that card, Masan?
It's an awkward card if like it's pretty good actually. It's pretty good at the same time it's awkward because it makes your draws kind of weak because you want to draw you want to use your a Cloud of Pain, but then you're not like, well, actually, what cards have you seen people subbing out? Because when I sub out for Bash, I usually sub out a Cloud of Pain.
Yeah,
I
I've
don't know
seen
if that's something what most people do.
I've seen some lists they sub out Acolyte of Pain and instead they run double slam and
Hmm.
double bash, for example. Sometimes Bash is just used as a one of though, and you sub
Yeah,
out
yeah.
like a Harrison Jones or the Harrison
If you
Jones
have
or a
more
second brawl.
mid-range cards or other cycling cards, that is, I believe, totally fine.
Yeah. There's also a mid range list by Nyria that just runs pretty much like Acolyte of Pain, Bash,
Hmm.
Slam, and it's more about putting
And
pressure on your
Shredder
opponent's
as well,
board.
perhaps.
Yeah, Shredder, exactly.
Uh-huh.
It's a really
Oh boy.
interesting one. Yeah, not the best divine favor,
No,
but
it's enough.
yeah,
It's
it's like
it's
a
more than enough to just let
yeah
you get through.
3 mana nourish, right?
If there is only one thing that's going in not favor for Kolento is that he is throwing a lot of secrets, and he has Mr. Challenger ready to go on turn 6 that might not be able to do too much.
Yeah, especially since in the newer lists, a lot of secrets have been cut. In the first list, it's pretty much like everyone's running 10 secrets, right? But these days, it ranges a
9,
lot
I think.
between,
Hmm.
but yeah, yeah, it could be 9. I think the first list I ever saw had 10, but these days it's more like you run between 6 to 8 secrets. That seems more reasonable.
Yeah, it just sounds very reasonable. It's just that when you have that list, your second Mr. Challenger is not that effective. But I guess you're not really looking forward to play them. You're not really looking for. You're just playing it as a 6/6 body. But at that time, if you haven't already won the game, the game is likely just over. Unless you draw into, Dr. Boom or Tyrion, which some people use also.
Oh, pretty key juggle there.
Yep.
Yeah, it means the knife juggler will be able to hit the face for additional 3 damage, and it won't be at 1 health.
That is the 3 secrets on Kolento's head, correct?
Yeah, 3 secrets.
So Mr. Challenger will not draw majority of the secrets then, I guess, since he already went through the 4 secrets.
This is okay. So this is actually really key that Knife Juggler is at 2 health, because if Cipher attacks now, he'll run into a noble sacrifice.
Oh yeah.
And he won't actually kill this he won't actually kill this Knife Juggler.
No. What do you think about possibly just going for Armor Smith and a Cloud of Pain and try to draw into some? If he runs a Whirlwind, I think that's what I would have done. You gotta take your chances at this point, or execute, I guess, if you're attacking into it. Something's gonna get avenged, and you're at 11 health right now. Oh man.
Yeah, and
Here
this
comes. Oh. If he didn't have a first one.
Yeah. Which one do you play?
Which one do you play?
I think I always play the one off the top here, just to tilt the opponent.
Usually I do that. You don't actually
hold on. Is this actually
yeah, that's a lot of damage. 3, 4, 5, 6. It can also have the.
So that's 5 damage. Just 5 damage overall, and it doesn't really matter if.
Oh my god, it's 1 damage off lethal.
Yeah. I was gonna say it doesn't matter that what it hits because it's the same health anyway, but this Shredder is actually gonna be a little awkward. The Shredder tanks an extra 2 damage from this piloted Shredder.
Because it didn't hit a single time.
Yeah.
But what do you do here as a control warrior? So grim. Oh, I guess that could be one answer.
Okay, so you can Cruel Taskmaster, go hope for the Doomsayer.
Oh yeah.
If the Doomsayer hits, then you armor up and you're technically still alive.
Technically, until Mr. Challenger hit the board.
Alright, that's gonna be the play here.
And that is the only play.
Ooh.
Oof.
Even have an avenge. And Cipher, unfortunately for him, he's come all this way, but he gets knocked out by Kolento. And Kolento, once again, showing why he's the most dominant force in Hearthstone, even after TGT.
Yeah, definitely. Wow, that was a pretty convincing win. All 3 matches.
Yeah, he made it through the gauntlet. First, he took out Zalay, one of the best North American players. He took out Kucha on Team Hellraisers. Definitely a formidable team, especially in the Russian scene. And finally, he took out Cipher, the 2nd place finisher from Vulcan Deckmasters, and just a player who qualifies for almost every tournament. Kolento will be making the LAN finals later in October, so congrats to him.
Congratulations to another Cloud9 member, Kolento.
Yeah. You must be really happy seeing your teammate.
Yeah, I am very happy to see Kolento doing well here.
Yeah, like, even though he made it through, it's not over for him yet. He still has to face off against a very impressive lineup of players. You have Dog and Tice, probably 2 of the more known players. You have, of course, Stan Uchi from Team Hellraisers, who certainly wants revenge for Kolento knocking out his teammate. And finally, you have Stan Sivka, who's regarded as one of the best. I don't know if you even want to call him an up-and-comer, but one of the best players, one of the best analysts in the scene.
Oh yeah, I don't know how well he known is. How well he's performed actually in the past month or 2, but he's been really strong in litter, and between players he's known as one of the best players.
Oh yeah, certainly. We're gonna take a short break right now, but when we come back, we're gonna have Osaka versus. Do you know who? Surrender. Yes, that's gonna be a really exciting match. We're gonna have a second half of the bracket, and we're gonna find out who the 6th and final player will be joining us in October. So see you then.
See you guys.